Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And as always, we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. Prayer, we're going to talk about it. In just a few minutes, Rich Vince is going to be with us talking about consultants in the workplace. He always has some very interesting observations about what's going on in the world of consulting, and it carries over into the world of regular work. We've been spending 10 seconds being grateful. So think of 3 things today that made you grateful. Go. You can't be unhappy when you're grateful. Why you should pray in your job search? Well, prayer is the turning to God, toward God, and making him a part of your living relationship. It's an emotional dialogue with God, and it deepens your personal relationship with him and your personal relationship with yourself. Let's face it, if you're looking for a job, whether you have one or not, it's a very difficult thing. It's a tremendous amount of emotions. In fact, I estimate that for every one thing that is positive that happens in your job search, there are 14 things that are negative. And it's very, very difficult. And having a close relationship with God in that process of looking for a job helps you deal with those emotions and gives you the courage and acceptance to deal with those emotions a whole lot better. So much goes on in the job search that you are not in control of, that having a prayerful life and having a close relationship with God helps you do that. Now, there are 5 kinds of prayer: adoration, petition, intercession, prayers of thanksgiving, and praise. And all of them should be used in the job search. We use all of them in every day in working through the job search and doing it right. The purpose of prayer in the job search, and I've learned this in the 51 years that I've been doing this, is to grow personally and spiritually so that you become the kind of person that deserves the opportunity that you might find. You have to learn to manage the process and not worry about the outcome. Praying for an outcome is not as effective as praying for being the kind of person that deserves the outcome and focusing on the process of getting a job and not worrying about the result. If you pray about the outcome, you will often be disappointed. You pray about getting a job that you don't get, where the outcome doesn't come what you like, then you get disappointed in your prayer. Keep in mind what C.S. Lewis wrote about when he talked about the Lord in his suffering at the Mount Gethsemane before his death. He prayed that the cup would pass him by, that he would not suffer. But he did. He prayed to be the kind of person that would tolerate the suffering that he had. He prayed for an outcome that wasn't to be. That's where you have to pay attention to praying for process and praying for courage and praying for acceptance. The Serenity Prayer by Reinhold Niebuhr comes to mind. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Think about the things you can change or you can affect in the interviewing and hiring process. You can affect getting interviews. You can affect performing well on the interviews. You can affect all of those kind of things. You can't necessarily affect the outcome of getting a job offer. Too many times that's to the whim of someone else. But you can pray for the courage to have acceptance for whatever is and move on to the next one. And if you recognize that as your mantra, to accept what you cannot change and the courage to affect the things you can, the phrase of thy will be done, the prayer of thy will be done will be a whole lot more effective. Christ prayed that on Gethsemane. Thy will be done. And God's will was done for the betterment of humanity. It was suffering on Christ's part. So sometimes you're going to suffer. Sometimes you have to accept that you're going to suffer. You have to pray for the courage and understanding that that's part of it. That's why prayer is so important in the job search, because there's so much you don't control and so much that is going to affect you that you can't do anything about. I had a candidate yesterday that she's been told for the past 2 weeks that a company was going to hire, and then you just decided not to hire anybody. She was devastated. Well, she was so wrapped up in the moment of the result that she was blown away by the fact that it wasn't going to happen. So just remember that. Pray for the courage to accept and focus on the process, not the result. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. This is Tony Bashir with the Job Search Solution.